Imagine you are a candle, not the poetic kind, a real candle. Wax, heat, oxygen, chemistry.
When the flame goes out, something ends, but the wax is still there. The air is still there.
Atoms don't vanish. So here is today's question, asked as carefully as possible.
When a human dies, what ends? And what, if anything, continues? People use the word soul in different ways.
Sometimes it means a supernatural substance. Sometimes it means consciousness itself.
Sometimes it means identity, the you that feels continuous over time. And if we don't define the word,
we will argue forever without touching the same idea. So in this episode, we'll separate 3 layers.
The body, a biological system. The mind, the stream of experience. The soul, whatever you think might exist beyond the body. We will look at what science can observe, what philosophy can propose, and what we should admit we do not know. Because the honest answer is not one sentence. It is a map of possibilities.
Let's start with the most grounded layer, the body. Death is not a single moment. It is a process. When circulation fails, oxygen stops reaching the brain. Neurons can keep working for a short time, then energy collapses.
And the brain shifts into emergency states. In some patients, researchers have observed patterns consistent with the
terminal wave of depolarization boom, a biological shutdown cascade that can begin within minutes after severe loss of blood flow.
That is not a mystical event. It is physics and chemistry inside living tissue.
A system running out of power. And it matters because it reminds us.
The brain does not always turn off like a switch.
It fades, flickers, and sometimes produces brief, organized activity on the way down.
In animal studies, recordings during cardiac arrest have shown short surges of highly synchronized rhythms after the heart stops.
In humans, we almost never record the brain at the exact edge. But rare case reports exist,
including EEG recordings taken around cardiac arrest that show changes in rhythms associated with internal imagery and memory processing.
None of this proves a soul, but it does tell us something important.
The boundary between alive and gone is a transition, not a hard line. Now move up 1 layer, the mind.
If the body is the hardware, the mind is the running program. Perception, emotion, thought, awareness.
So the key scientific question becomes, is the mind fully dependent on the brain? Or is the brain a receiver, a filter, or an interface for something else?
This is the classic mind-body problem, and the main theories fall into a few families. First, physicalism. Physicalism says that consciousness is what brains do. The mind emerges from coordinated activity across billions of neurons.
Change the brain, change the mind. Damage the brain, the mind changes. Stop the brain permanently, the mind ends.
This view is supported by a mountain of evidence from neuroscience, and it is the default assumption of modern medicine.
But it leaves a famous discomfort. Why does information processing feel like something from the inside? Why is there a movie instead of just data? That question is called the hard problem of consciousness.
And physicalism has answers, but not a universally satisfying one. Second, dualism.
Dualism says the mind is not the same kind of thing as matter. There is the body,
and there is an additional component, des, a soul, spirit, or non-physical mind. In this view, death could be a separation. The body ends, but the soul continues. Dualism fits many religious traditions, and it matches a deep human intuition.
That the I feels different from the flesh. But it faces a hard technical problem.
How does a non-physical soul interact with physical neurons? If it changes the brain, where is that influence measured?
And if it doesn't change the brain, how could it create thoughts, speech, or action?
Third, emergence and property views. These approaches say that consciousness is not a separate substance,
But it may be a real feature of the universe that appear
when systems reach certain kinds of complexity and integration. The soul, in that frame, might not be a traveler.
It might be a pattern that exists only while the system exists. Fourth, consciousness-first ideas.
Some philosophers argue that consciousness is fundamental, and matter is a description inside experience, not the other way around. A cousin of this family is panpsychism, the idea that the ingredients of mind exist at a basic level everywhere,
And complex brains organize them into a unified perspective.
These views try to solve the hard problem by flipping the order.
Mind is not the puzzle to be derived from matter. Matter is the puzzle to be derived from mind.
but they face their own challenge. How do tiny fragments of mind stuff combine into one you?
This is called the combination problem. Fifth, information and pattern views. Here, the soul is not a ghost.
It is the organized structure of your mind, the code. Your memories, habits, values, the way you model the world.
In this view, you are like a whirlpool. The water changes every second, but the pattern persists for a while.
Death is when the pattern can no longer run in that medium. Could it run elsewhere? In principle, if the pattern were copied into another substrate, a new instance could exist. But would that be you?
Or a new you with your story? That question is not only technical, it is personal.
Now, what about the reports that make this topic feel electric? Near-death experiences, life reviews, tunnels, light,
Meeting loved ones. A sense of leaving the body. These reports are widespread, and many people describe them as more real than waking life. Science treats them as data, but a specific kind of data. Subjective experience, reported after the fact, filtered through memory and language.
A sincere report can still be shaped by culture, expectation, and the brain's need to build a coherent story out of chaos.
There are also plausible brain-based mechanisms that can generate vivid internal worlds under extreme conditions. Oxygen deprivation, rapid neurotransmitter changes, REM-like intrusion, and stress chemistry that intensifies emotion and association. That does not explain away meaning.
It simply reminds us that extraordinary feelings can emerge from biology.
So where does that leave the question of a soul? Science can map the body's shutdown.
It can measure brain rhythms. It can test what correlates with experience. But the soul, as most people mean it, is a claim about what exists beyond measurement. And when a claim moves beyond measurement, we enter philosophy. And, for many people, faith. That does not mean the question is useless.
It means we must handle it with the right tools. So here is the most honest synthesis.
Physicalism is the strongest scientific position today because it predicts and explains a lot. Dualism and consciousness-first views remain philosophically possible because the hard problem is still open.
Because subjective experience is not yet reducible to a single equation.
Information pattern views are a bridge between the two. They respect the brain,
but they also treat identity as something abstract enough to, in theory, persist if it could be instantiated again.
None of these theories is a free ticket to certainty. Each has costs.
So what can we do with a map that ends in fog? We can extract something surprisingly practical. If you do have a soul that continues,
then the quality of your inner life matters even more than you think. If you do not,
then this life is the only place your consciousness will ever appear, which makes it unimaginably precious. Either way,
is not nihilism. It is attention. Because the one thing every theory agrees on is this: your life is made of moments of awareness, and awareness is shaped by what you repeatedly do. So if you want a life that feels meaningful, treat meaning like a practice, not a belief. Build relationships that can hold reality. Choose rituals that return you to the present. Reduce the harm you cause when you are afraid.
create small, honest moments that you would not be ashamed to rewatch. If a final movie ever plays,
It will not be made of your productivity dashboards. It will be made of what you loved, what you protected,
and what you dared to say while you still had time. So, whether the soul is a traveler, a pattern,
or a metaphor for the deepest part of the mind.
You can do one thing today that improves every possible outcome.
live as if your attention is your most sacred resource. Because in the end, the body returns to the world.
And the question of what remains may be answered only in the most private way possible.
If this episode helped you think more clearly about death, mind, and meaning, tap like.
And if you want more calm, science-first explorations of the human experience, subscribe to Arcane Knowledge. Until next time.